Shelby's going to be going over a lot of information today. So I encourage each and every one of you to just try to find one or two takeaways that's really helpful for your organization that you can go home or go back to your organization and kind of put into action right away. And we are going to be sending out notes from today's session and also links. So all of the links that Shelby mentions and the notes we will send out. So you're welcome to take notes, but don't feel too stressed out if you miss something. We'll make sure that you get all the information. And then finally, we are recording today's session. So if you want to rewatch it later or share it with your coworkers, you are welcome to do so. All of that being said, I can't wait to introduce Shelby. Y'all, she is so generously donating her time to be with us today to share her expertise with the nonprofit sector here in the Gallatin County. We are so grateful for all of our speakers, but I'm especially grateful for Shelby because she's donating her time and she's not even in the Gallatin County. She is Zooming in today from Missoula to share this information with us. Yeah. She is a native Montanan who loves to connect with people. She has over 10 years of marketing experience, and she just really enjoys supporting small businesses and organizations. So she is going to share with us her expertise today, but I'll send her contact info out in the follow-up email. But I hope that each and every one of you just have the opportunity to connect with Shelby because it is just so generous of her to be here today.
That'd be great. I would love for you guys to connect with me afterwards. That would be wonderful. And Jill, thank you for this opportunity. This is just a blast. I love this topic. When I was researching it, this is a major shift in thinking about how we market from our boomer generation all the way to Gen Z. But it is just so interesting how these generations have been informed and how they are changing marketing. And so I got real excited when I actually started researching the subject for a nonprofit that I work with here in Missoula, the Red Willow Learning Center. I've received their services, I've served on their board, and now I get to help them do some marketing. And Kathy over there said, well, tell me how can we reach more Gen X? Because they are the up and coming generation with the they're starting to have financial ability to donate, and they're very good at researching tax incentives for donating. So that's a little preview of one of the generations. And let's see, I think we're going to have time for questions between each section and even after. As Jill said, we're recording, we have notes, you'll have links. And so I hope you don't get overwhelmed by the information. We're just going to kind of absorb it today. And with that, I'll just go ahead and get started. All right. So hopefully you have the little PDF that came with from Jill. And the top here, we're just going to look at the age groups at first. Like, what are these generations? We have 4 of them. From the boomers, who were born from they're 58 to 76 years old. Generation X, 42 to 57 years old. Generation Y / millennials, that's the same generation, 26 to 40, and Gen Z, 10 to 25. All right. So I know we have a wide variation of nonprofits here today, and I'm sure each of you, or at least some of you, have at least one of these generations, I guess is what I want to say. I bet we're going to hit every generation with everyone that's here today. So I'm just going to go ahead and read through what we have here and then add some comments and tell a few stories. So here we go. So the boomers, this generation grew up post World War II, and they formed strong communities with traditional values. They prefer face-to-face experiences. And I think that's, we're all used to that with that generation. They also prefer tangible media sources like newspapers and magazines. If they're online these days, it's usually Facebook and primarily to stay connected with their families. So this is a very familiar marketing model for us. And I just want to share a quick story about how they love to gather. I worked with the Women's Club gym here in Missoula, and 60% of our population was actually over the age of 50. We had a retention rate that was through the roof in the industry. And it's like they joined to exercise, but they stayed for the connections. And that is the glue that keeps this generation together. So we're looking down at the top marketing tools. And I've organized all this in whether you provide products or services, although I know a mission can be both one or the other, but there seems to be a difference whether it's a tangible product or an actual service that you're providing, or both. So that's how we have it organized today. In-person events, still a classic, and we all know that's been a real challenge these days. A lot of people of all generations are not gathering, or they're choosing to gather in different ways. I'm still going to promote a hands-on experience. If you can gather some folks who want experience with your product in the room, maybe it's you sell a particular, your craft. Well, how do I want to say this? Because it's a nonprofit. So the Red Willow Learning Center, they offer mind body tools and yoga, and oftentimes the equipment for yoga, it's like, what is the shape of that thing and what do I do with it? So they a tangible way to practice with the yoga equipment in a room with others is a very attractive option for this generation. They have, so I suggest if you're doing a product and you're in an event with someone, have someone take pictures during the event and help the guests post on their own Facebook. You know, some of them are going to be used to that and know how to do that, but some not. And if they're open to sharing it with their family, and look what I learned today, that's a great way to spread the in-person event onto social media and get more exposure. The most important thing to do, though, is to collect the emails at this event, because you can leverage that list. And I imagine a lot of you already have a pretty robust email list, and you can just add to that with each event that you host. Now, if it's more of a service and you're probably an expert in your field, so an educational presentation related to your service is great. And again, in person with this generation, and you can have someone roaming around the room taking pictures, or afterwards, and taking selfies with each other and posting on Facebook for their families. So our second option for boomers is emails or even flyers. And remember that this is the generation that created email forwards. Do you guys remember that, where it was like line after line after line on the side of your email because so many people had forwarded it? And it's usually something cute or fun that they like to forward. And no matter what our organization is, there's memes out there, there's funny things, there's animals, they always get a big hit. Include a picture of that and just a short bit about what's coming up next. That's a big attractor. So I want to share my screen and show you one that I came across. How about this handsome fella? I don't call it getting old, I call it outliving the warranty. So something like that will get a lot of attraction from your boomers. Oh, and here comes my puppy. So if you hear him in the background. Okay, so emails are very effective with them, and especially forwarding the emails to friends, just because they love to share a laugh. And in that email, like I say, you can advertise upcoming events, even tease it with free stuff that you're going to be offering at the event, and highlight a product and include, of course, a phone number for them to call you. They still prefer the good old-fashioned phone number. This is probably all pretty familiar to us. It's a marketing model that's been around for a long time. If you do a service, again, advertise that upcoming event, and always include a cartoon or a pet meme related to your service so they can forward it on. Now, specifically to nonprofits. So let's say you've already established a loyal following on social media. So you can register your nonprofit with Facebook and make any event that you enter or load onto Facebook a fundraiser. What will happen then is that when you post about that event, a little donate button will come up. And this is really helpful, like after the event, if folks are open to sharing their pictures on the event, and maybe they forgot to donate, or they're just thinking of donating, they can just click the donate button. And it'll also, if you're on Instagram, there'll also be another donate button there. So for nonprofits, that's a strong strategy in Facebook to make your event a fundraiser. And you only have to do it in Facebook, because Facebook and Instagram are, tied tight. Same company. So a lot of what you do in Facebook translates to Instagram. Okay, so any questions on Boomers right now? Any kind of thoughts, experiences? Well, we're just going to keep on going then. Gen X, this is my people. So they're the first generation. This is a fun fact. Like, a friend just asked me, why did they start at the end of the alphabet? Well, it's the first generation to be labeled with a letter, Gen X, because it was coined as we had no major life altering events to mold our cultural or moral values. Like before, there was World War II, there was Vietnam, after us, 9/11. So we were just like this fill in the blank generation that really did not have a big event to mold who we were. So we also grew up with fast changing technology. And so we're really comfortable with multiple points of view and multiple media sources. We are the research generation. So we knew what it was like before Google. Google came on as we were maturing. And so we really value the ability to research. And I would say actually Googling takes priority over like YouTube, even like the text version of articles and stuff. So that's just how Gen X kind of grew up learning. So we thrive on gaining understanding, learning more, and collecting data to fully form our ideas. The most effective marketing strategies capitalize on this penchant for research. So let's dive into that first marketing tool, website or Google business page. A lot of you probably already have a website up. Whether or not you have a Google business page could be an option. What I like about Google business page is it's free. And a lot of folks, what they really use on that is the reviews. So if you have a website, I would say create a store for online ordering. And this can be a big leap because stores are often third-party programs that you then insert into your website. And the idea of having an online store, having to check orders, maybe shipping orders, that can feel pretty overwhelming. I think you do not need to do all of your inventory. If you do products, maybe just the top 3 products, you can start with that. Services, they more like to book online. So again, a lot of third party, I remember at the Women's Club, our class schedule, we had like 40 classes a week. We did this big conversion to put them all where they could book and pay online. That's a little more user friendly because you're not shipping and handling anything. But Gen X really likes the convenience of being able to do that. And going back to the website or Google business page there under products, reviews. That is the main way that Gen X actually finds out information for products. Like I could be at Costco and see a product I like. I'm gonna Google it, find a review probably from Amazon on it and see how good of a product it really is. So that's kind of a merging of real world and digital marketing these days. One idea I like is if you do have tangible products that you offer and you ship it, or maybe you sell it at a store or an event, stick a little note in there that asks for reviews and gives them a link to go to. I often see this from things I get from Amazon from China. They've really gotten into this, but just that little prompt, to please give us a review and how the service went. It makes a big deal, it makes a big difference. All right, so also if you do have a Google business page, make sure that it not only has your information, but that you load it with pictures, video, store hours. Right now, things are opening and closing kind of intermittently because there's not a lot of staff to go around. So it's really important to keep those hours updated. And in the links that are at the back of your document, there's a whole link there about how to do that. So just store that in your memory there. Another really important thing on your website is the Contact Us page with a contact form for submission. So we're moving away from people contacting you by clicking on your email on a website to actually filling out a form. It doesn't, or it shouldn't be a very long form, actually. Name, email, and what they're interested in can be a great way to get that first lead and then follow up with them. But definitely, if you had to choose between doing an online store or a Contact Us page, choose the Contact Us page because that's going to leverage your current assets the most. Okay, going down to emails for Generation X. So this is really interesting. Since the pandemic, emails have risen in their open rates. So how many people open an email versus how many people you sent it to, they have more than doubled, and it continues to increase. And what has changed is the format of the emails. So it's not a big long newsletter, here's what's coming up this month. It might be once a week highlighting one event or product or service, no more than 2 paragraphs with a really obvious button for their call to action. You know, maybe book now or register here or find out more. That is what's getting those email opens, is people know now that if they open it, they're not going to be like inundated with a bunch of information and they can read it really quickly. So that I really am excited about. For tangible products in your email, maybe you do a picture or two of that product and then you link it to the online store on your website. So now you're creating that funnel, that sales funnel or that book online funnel for any fundraising events that you might have. And of course, I always suggest at the very bottom, you usually see these on emails, a link to your newsletter sign up page, your Facebook account, and your Instagram account if you have those active. For services, those little short stories go a long way about someone who received your services and just had a success story, is so grateful, happy to tell the world about what they got out of your organization and the importance of your mission. Maybe include a picture of them using the service or link to a YouTube video inside the email that then they can click on and watch that person give a testimony. Or a quote. If they're not so comfortable being in front of the camera, you can put a testimonial on the email. And again, we're going to include links to sign up for your newsletter, your Facebook account, your Instagram account. Specifically for nonprofits. Now this really gets me excited. Cryptocurrency. So Gen X is poised to be the most income ability earning generation coming up. And because we are so different from changing technologies, I mean, we went from vinyl on music for music to cassettes to CDs to MP3s. And hey, let's go back to vinyl. You know, so we are really flexible and comfortable with changing technologies. Gen X is not afraid to check out crypto. So Red Willow Learning Center, the nonprofit that I work with, really interesting story. So Kathy was contacted via email from one of her Bedrock supporters and said, hey, how's it going? How's your fundraising going? And she says, oh yeah, it's going this way and that way. And here's what I'm doing. And she happened to mention that she was setting up crypto as a donation platform. And the guy was like, oh, well, I got crypto. Someone gave it to me and I have no idea what to do with it. How do I do it? And so she sent him a link, $5,000 in crypto within like 10 minutes. Now, there's a little upfront work, but it's not hard. There is an organization out there called Crypto for Charity, and we have that link in the show notes as well. Kathy told me it cost about $250 up front. They set up the donation platform. They file the tax forms for you. They just make it as easy as possible. And then once you have the crypto, they help educate you on how to manage that. I think it's a little bit like those legacy donations, or when you get stock as a donation, for example, similar to that. So yeah, and also like I mentioned earlier, Gen X is the research generation. So they are checking out the tax incentives for donating. And part of our job is just to educate them. Hey, did you know you can do crypto? And this is the tax incentive you get. So that might be an email that you send out on a regular basis, just to remind them. Yeah. So Gen X, any questions that come to mind, or thoughts on cryptocurrency, difficulties with emails, anything like that?
I did get a question about boomers that I didn't see in the chat, but I think it actually is kind of applicable as we talk about all of the generations. Somebody asked, is there something in particular that will turn boomers off, or anything they don't like to see? And I think that's good to keep in mind for all of the generations, of like, this is what we should be doing. But I think if you have any advice on like things that we shouldn't be doing, that might be helpful as well to pop in. And we had some generous and kind boomers who were willing to step into the chat and share their own opinions, but they share that they don't like anything that makes them feel old and don't want to be called seniors. And
Yeah.
we appreciate that. But as we go, I kind of think that question is applicable to all four generations. Like what would be things to avoid as well?
Yeah. So we all have our preferences because of the way we grew up, right? And with our connected society now, we're so digitally connected that we're aware of other generations, and that could be good or that can feel weird. One of the top examples that comes to mind, this might be a little challenging if you have a wide range of generations that you serve, is anything that feels too political or too controversial is really put off by boomers, right? Because remember, they like to connect. They like that community. They like the acceptance. But what's ironic is Gen Z, that is their social collateral. They love if you speak up, say your opinion about an issue. That is where how we reach out to them really matters, how we segment our communications with generations. So our CRMs, of course, we have the ages in there. If you start practicing emails, see if you can parse those email lists out to the age groups, because then you're communicating traditionally to boomers about stuff that they're comfortable with, community. And then Gen Z, if you are communicating about a social justice issue, gender equity, that's super important to them, and they will more likely to open those emails. So those are two big differences and a way to kind of navigate communicating to them. Yeah. I like that question because it's so different. It's this marketing landscape is just like changing so fast. And yet we can't ignore any generation, right? We have our markets, and we have the markets we want to lean into in the future. But it seems like everyone knows everything about everybody these days. And we really do have to respect one another and how each generation wants to be seen. So I hope that's something you can work with there.
We also had someone just ask a follow-up question about that and say, when you refer to email, it says, are you considering MailChimp the same as email?
Yeah, for sure. In the links, I highlight a new upcoming email program I like. I like it a lot because it's simpler and it's just as effective as like MailChimp or Constant Contact. It's called Mailer Lite, and there's a link to it in your notes there. I like it because it has a lot of trending templates that look really good, are easy to fill in pictures and text. And just the back end is a lot easier to work with. It seems like Constant Contact has just gotten so clunky and so full of stuff. So MailerLite can do all that, and up to 1,000 subscribers, it's free. So yeah, I like to use that one. Anything else right now?
I had one person message me privately, and when you were talking about Gen X loving reviews, they mentioned that they, because they don't have a product, can't put it in the product, but because they have a place where people can go to have a sign up that basically says like, give our nonprofit a Google review. So I think it's just helpful that, you know, they were willing to share that, but essentially just that idea that there can be reviews for all sorts of things. It can be services, it can be experiences, it can be products. So
yeah, and in fact, I work with Archer's Grizzly Boot here in Missoula. They've been around since '82, and they do repair and they sell Whites and Franks boots. And 9 times out of the 10, the review is about customer service. And yes, they have products, but that customer service, of course, we all love customer service, and it's never going to change. That's always going to be a top thing there. So that's a great review kind of category. Yeah.
and that's all that came into me through the chat. But if anyone has any questions, you're also welcome to chime in.
All right. So let's flip the page. We'll go to Gen Y and the millennials. So just starting from the top, social media was already established when they were growing up. So they have migrated actually away from Facebook to Instagram. And some of them are even starting to go to TikTok. So there's this trend that whenever a platform gets like stuffed with ads, they find a way to move on to the next one that doesn't have as many ads. And now Instagram has a lot of ads. So now they're heading to TikTok. This is a way, or this is an example of how generations are actually forcing marketing to change rather than we put something out there and they come to us. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, they're moving away from Facebook to Instagram, and they can recognize a sales pitch from a mile away. So they place more trust in personal stories and what their friends share on social media. They are the first generation to become comfortable creating relationships online. That is a big shift in thinking. I think since the pandemic and we all had to get used to Zoom, we're a little more comfortable with that. But you know, this was the generation that was dating online. And they also the selfie generation, right? So they're much more comfortable in front of the camera. And one important thing, we'll talk about this in a little bit, is they expect to be able to book or buy online. So if you think that Gen Y or millennial is going to be an up-and-comer donor or recipient of your services, really try to head in that direction, because they are now expecting to be able to do it. A fun little story. This is an example of how they're gaming the system. Is I was talking to my daughter and stepdaughter about emailing, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I just give them a fake email just so I can get the the product, and then I never check that account." And I was like, "What? You create a fake email?" It blew my mind. And that's something they do, right? So here's an example of how emails, when you are offering a product or a service in exchange for their email, this can be more of a challenge. So this generation, the most marketing or the most effective marketing tools don't center around email, they center around social media. Again, those relationships online. All right, so starting from Instagram there, number 1, they recognize a sales pitch from a mile away. So you are going to actually create a stronger relationship with them if you do fewer posts and you sprinkle in inspirational memes or quotes. This is also the meme generation, which is, a funny picture. Well, it was the one of Sam Elliott, right there, a picture and the words with it. Yeah, if you do an advertising post, make it maybe every third or fourth post. And this is what actually we have in our favors. You can do fewer. When Facebook first came out, they were like, post, 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 one, at least two a day, post, post, post. Well, what's happened is, of course, the market got overwhelmed. And now if you just do 2 really effective, meaningful posts a week, and you stick in there a fun post just to say, hey, we're a fun organization and what we do is meaningful, they get a really good feel for you. Let's see. Now, here is an interesting thing that started with Gen Y is influencers. And this can be like an eye roller for some of us. And an influencer is a digital version of word of mouth that you can choose someone who represents your market or someone as a volunteer of your nonprofit that's really passionate about what you do. And you're not necessarily asking them to advertise for you. You're just asking them to post. They usually try and pick someone who's really active on Instagram, maybe even TikTok, and they post regularly. So they have some friends, they have some strong connections. And then once in a while, they show maybe themselves at one of your activities, or maybe they show themselves using your product. So I'm an influencer for a local sock company here in town called Vim and Vigor. They do compression socks. And they've just asked me, once in a while, Shelb, just show us what you're doing while you're wearing our socks. So when the spring came, I was gardening and I was wearing their compression socks while I was gardening all day to keep my feet fresh. You know what I mean? So you're kind of making more of a personal connection rather than just a obvious salesy post. And then what that does is as they see it in their feed, it's just that, again, that digital version of word of mouth. It's like, oh yeah, maybe that would be a good Christmas present for someone. Or, oh yeah, I've been wanting to get those. Oh, I hike a lot. Huh. Well, maybe that would help my feet on long hikes. It's just, they're in control of how they choose to find you and engage with you that way. And you're just kind of out there in the space showing who you are. For services, I touched on this already, a website, ad, a book, or a buy online tool for sure. Here's something very interesting that can feel uncomfortable for some of us. On Instagram, we can post videos and get really personal. We can be vulnerable. We can share our business struggles. So a really good example of this, there's a gal named Mallory in town. She designs and sells activewear that's made out of plastic bottles, and her business is called UR. I actually have in the links a link to her Instagram account, so you can kind of check out what she does. But during the pandemic, her suppliers of her fabric were stuck in wherever she has them made. She had all of these orders that she could not fulfill, and she actually had to shut down her business during the pandemic. But she did not shut down her social media. What she did is she just started recording. She's sitting there in her house and saying what it's like. And, there is a line between how much information you want to share with the public, but it's okay to get really personal with this Gen Y. They respect that. They already know it's hard. So how is this person navigating that? I really have respect for Mallory because she was so honest and transparent. And you know what? She did not lose a follower during that time. And she was able to relaunch her business after the pandemic. Supply lines started coming back in. It didn't hurt her at all. In fact, it kept her customers loyal. So keep that in mind. It can be kind of uncomfortable, but if I'm a nonprofit And we are trying to put together maybe partnerships with other businesses in town. You might get online and say, boy, I really would love to find this business, certain kind of business, because I want to highlight this part of my mission, but I don't know who to find or where, and maybe your followers will come up with ideas. So those struggles, yeah, that's about all I have to say about that one. I just really was impressed how Mallory was able to relaunch her business just by being really transparent, and she didn't lose any loyalty for sure. All right, so this is the first generation. We're headed to YouTube now. What's really been popular with products is unboxing videos, which I was like, what? I'm gonna sit here for 10 minutes and watch you just like open up this product and like, oh, look at that. Oh, this is interesting. Like my vacuum cleaner belt broke yesterday. And so I'm on YouTube trying to find an answer for how to get inside the vacuum and replace the belt. And here's this guy, he opened it up. Oh, here's the power button. No, that's kind of an interesting thing. These videos get so many likes. And I think it's just the sheer number of people on YouTube that are looking for information. So if you have a product that you deliver, go ahead and unbox it and explain what you like about it or why you chose to buy it, and share that experience with your followers. So establishing a YouTube channel, if you haven't already, can be a little daunting. I think there's a link in there, but actually there's a lot of places if you just Google how to start a YouTube channel, and it is directly linked to your Gmail because Google owns YouTube. So more information there, hopefully down the road with those links. So I also like to see videos of customers reviewing or using your product or even your service. And with Red Willow, because they do mind-body modalities that are trauma informed, it really means a lot to their market that someone gets online and talks about maybe a past trauma that they had and how Red Willow helped. And you would think that that would be kind of uncomfortable territory, a very personal story again, but Gen Y, they love those personal stories. They connect to those personal stories. And in fact, if you offer a chance to donate after that, and I'll down the road here in a minute, I'll show you how you can do that or explain how you can do that at the end of a video. If you offer a chance to donate just by that connection that they made with a stranger, they'll often go ahead and do that because they know the program is helping people. Okay. Nonprofit strategies. So memberships are becoming really popular rather than just one-time donations or ongoing donations. Gen Y really likes the idea of following and being part of an important cause, and the idea of a membership, even if they just join at a very small level, that idea of being part of a group digitally really resonates with them. One of my favorite platforms is Patreon. And Gen Y likes this because Patreon is trusted. It's been around for a while. It actually started was started by artists who wanted to be more independent from their music labels. And so they were like, I want to just reach out to the people that follow me and like me. And if they would love to support me with a little money, that would be wonderful. And it's become a very successful platform to the point where Patreon now has nonprofit tools inside there, which I was really excited about. I also really like that if you have a membership, you can set up tiers with corresponding increases in rewards. So I've seen as little as a dollar membership, and what they get is maybe once a month, a little update about what the organization is up to, kind of the inside scoop on what they're up to, all the way to tangibles, perks and stuff that the members for a higher donation amount can receive. Also maybe early bird announcements for events that they buy tickets to, not necessarily cheaper tickets, but just getting first dibs on buying those tickets for events. Also, one really intriguing thing is they love to share their opinions. So part of that membership could be, they could be actually your research panel, like, oh, we're wondering if this is relevant to you guys. What would you suggest for this idea that we have? And because they're, a top tier member and they get to actually inform what you do, they're willing to pay more for that. They feel a sense of loyalty and they're very familiar with Patreon. So if your CRM has memberships, I'm going to say look at Patreon, simply because it's so familiar and trusted with this generation. If they are your up and coming or your market, that's worth spending some time on. Okay, so I want to just kind of step back a minute before we get to Gen Z, because they are a different animal. But kind of review, as far as social media, we're kind of in version 3. So way back in the early 2000s, it was Facebook, and it was like, oh my gosh, I can advertise for like pennies. I can post for free. I mean, it was like a gold mine, right, for anyone and everyone. And then a lot of companies started offering to pay to make ads for nonprofits and businesses. So that kind of was version 2. Okay, here come the commercials for this free platform, and people were starting to pay for them to get in front of Facebook followers. So after the pandemic, this is interesting to me because a lot of us were at home, we were quarantined, we had a lot more time just to scroll through our feeds, and the place, at the same time, the feeds got glutted with ads because it was like one of the few ways that businesses could actually reach clientele. So people started really moving away from Facebook, Instagram, anything with ads. And now version 3, we're getting more and more personal, to where I would say you are the product more than your services or your tangibles, at least on social media, and especially with the millennials, Gen Y, Gen Z, because they can get whatever you're doing in so many different places now. So it's like, who are they doing business with? That is it. You are the product, and your website says what you do. Social media says who you are, if that helps. So good news though, coming out of this, is Gen Z, they are primed and ready to find out who you are. And if you can just begin entering some space that feels quasi comfortable for you to begin unveiling the background office and the workings of your organization, Gen Z is going to glom onto that pretty quick. So any questions, Gen Y, millennials? Just this generation, we're really making relationships online with social media.
We did have one question come into the chat. The question was, if you are going to do like a membership program, are there incentives that you would recommend for the other generations besides Gen Y and millennials if you're trying to hit multiple generations with your membership program?
Oh, okay. So you have a membership, but not necessarily Gen Y, maybe not even Patreon, perhaps. Again, going back to Red Willow, they have, I would say their largest donor base right now is over 50. And they offer documents and PDFs online as, what I want to say, additions to the classes that they're offering online. So there's more background or materials. And there's a platform called Thinkify, INKIFY. That is a membership that I think you can merge with your CRM. Depending on it, I suppose, depending on your CRM. Right now, Red Willow is using Network for Good. Of course, I know there's a lot of CRMs out there, but so for different generations, you don't necessarily have to do Patreon, but they may not have those tiered levels either, right? So that's another, what do I want to say, positive about Patreon. And a lot of it is just educating those generations. And they may have a family member and go to and say, hey, have you ever heard about Patreon? And likely one of those younger folks is gonna be, oh yeah, it's pretty cool. You can get like the inside scoop and da da da. So because Patreon is so well known, I think I would prefer that. But if you need to start somewhere, start with Thinkific, because it can hopefully merge with your CRM. Does that
And
help?
yeah, I think also the question was not just other platforms, but like what you would offer to the different levels
Oh, what would I
for
offer?
various generations,
Yeah,
a wider range of generations.
yeah. Well, because the Generation X is such a research generation, how-to articles or the benefits of something, a service that you offer, for boomers who really love to be active, they are not stopping, they are moving. And I'm thinking of like the YMCA that offers the walking arthritis classes. Maybe they get first dibs or early announcements of when those are going to start if the classes enroll really quickly. Also, another one I've seen work well is if you have a B2B membership with other businesses that they donate things to your organization. Sometimes you do it for online auctions and stuff. Well, maybe some of those things that are donated just go to your membership base. So there's like little tangible perks too. Those are the things that come top of my head. Yeah.
Perfect. We also just had one more question come in that I'm very intrigued by, actually.
Okay.
Barb asked, she said, they've been, in thinking about potentially being more revealing, more informal, more personal with
Yeah.
social media, there are some concerns that their board members and some of their leadership who are in that older generation and who aren't as used to or comfortable with being that personal might be surprised, uncomfortable, etc. So maybe some insight on, if we're posting on social media and we are taking that approach, knowing that there are multiple generations in all of our followers, how to balance that without setting those who are our leaders and our support.
Yeah. So I had a really good example of this when I served on the board at Red Willow. That was back when podcasts were just on the radar. And I happened to be the youngest board member. And I was like, folks, we have got to start leaning into this podcast arena, especially for Gen X and Gen Y, because they are just soaking up all this information. But the technical they weren't used to, but also they knew there was like some of the most popular podcasts that made the news were a little they like to use the expletives in their titles, and it just was really off-putting, right? So a lot of it was education. They had to wait and see how podcasts really performed. They had to wait and see who is out there in that realm doing well and still sticking to their values. And sometimes that takes a little time. So educating, maybe every board meeting, or maybe every, no, it doesn't have to be every board meeting, but you just bring an example of, hey, look at what this business is doing on Instagram. This is really cool. And this is the success that they've had with it. They don't necessarily have to be blue. a lot of it is just getting bit by bit, drop by drop, comfortable with the new technology and how it's being presented. This is the perfect question for Gen Z too, right? Great lead in, Barb. Does that answer a little bit? Yeah? Okay. I'm going to take Barb's lead then here and flip the page and go to Gen Z. This was like a whoa when I was actually realizing what we are doing here in this new marketing space. It is still very new, but it's very sticky, and it's just not going to go away. It's not going to go away. So these are things to think about for the future. But there's a really bright star at the end for nonprofits. So I'm going to share that here, coming from the top, just reading here. Gen Z, they are connected to the world more than any generation in history. So they're more globally conscious and socially aware. The idea of changing the world has become a moral imperative for them, and they engage in fearless conversations. That's really important. What may feel too political, controversial, or opinionated to older generations actually gains social credit with Gen Z. What they do with their time and their money tells the world who they are, right? So there again, there's lots of places to get what they want, and they're going to choose to spend their dollars as a representation of who they are. If a business is not doing something to make a difference in the world, they are less likely to buy from that business or participate in that organization. They are early adopters of new technologies, and they have the power to shape marketing trends. This is the first generation that actually is forcing marketers to do things differently in a big way. And I don't think any other generation has really had that power before. So this is a changing landscape. It's an experiment kind of going on. And the first one that comes to mind is TikTok. So I've been watching TikTok for a while. It's still kind of a weird animal. It is staying. It's not going away. And in fact, the new millionaires, we'll call them, they're becoming millionaires often before they even turn 18, because they've had TikTok accounts that have blown up, and people just, Gen Z loves, even if they're out of Sri Lanka, and if this person is entertaining, those borders don't matter, right? So I was doing a little research on these new millionaires. There's one, Charli D'Amelio. She got really popular just doing these crazy dances. Or there's one, Mr. Beast. He puts out these crazy challenges that people follow. And these guys are getting sponsorships. That's how they're making their money. But here's the thing. They feel a responsibility to give back. And so Charli, for example, she's won awards for the social good that she has done with her money. And also Mr. Beast is a philanthropist. He donates to the Arbor Day Foundation and Ocean Conservancy. So this is the bright star that I see is, yes, it's a weird animal, and yes, they're doing crazy, weird things, but they want to give back. And for nonprofits, that's a good sign. They are on such a big world stage that it might be a better sign for nonprofits that are more national or international established. But I think as TikTok goes along, it's going to be scalable when people get used to it, and we may be able to find our little local superstars. So that, and the thing is about Gen Z, they just want to give back, right? They know they want to change the world. They want to do something more with their money than just live off it. It's kind of interesting. So for TikTok, keep these things in mind. Again, you could use that video that maybe you created for YouTube of you showing your products. But there's this really cool feature in TikTok where you do a duet where there's like double screens, and you could have someone unboxing your product then have a split screen commentary by you of what you like about it or why you chose to carry it. I put some links. I've been doing split screens for this just fun little thing I call Happy Medicine and the duet feature. We got some links in the document for how to get that done. But I think that's one of the most accessible, easiest ways to start TikTok is with just already using the content that you have and adding a duet split screen commentary about it. I'm going to say duets again for services. It doesn't have to be just products. It could even be events or volunteer events, I guess, that you've had, and you have a video of it going up, and then you do a duet of one of your staff members saying, "Oh, it was so cool how this ended up at the event," or "This happened at the event." TikTok has just extended their video time from 60 seconds to 10 minutes. So that's a huge leap. I have yet to see why they did it. Maybe they're trying to create an advertising funnel there, but we'll see. So you have some flexibility for how long you want to create your videos and your duets. YouTube, number 2 here. We're going to use the influencers again for Gen Z. In fact, I would say that's more powerful than actually Gen Y. Those could be your volunteers that are superstars in your organization, and they post on social media just because they're Gen Z. That's what they do. And once in a while, they mention your organization or they show themselves volunteering at one of your events. That's really powerful. And you don't always have to have, this is something new, or when social media started out, it's like you had to have your name of the organization on every single piece, the title of the account, the title of the video, the credits, just make sure your name is in there. With Gen Z, actually, it's more appears non-advertising if your name is not on someone's account. And so it can be a person's personal account. It doesn't have to be your own business account for the influencer. In fact, it's kind of better for this generation if it's more personal. Okay, so remember how I said you could add maybe a donate button to the end of your YouTube? This is how you would do it. So we're under on YouTube, products and services. I put them under both here. YouTube has an ability to display a slide at the end of a video. And on that slide, you could have a QR code, which is those like funny little square boxes that has all the black and white little pixels in it. And they're really comfortable taking a picture on a laptop or with their phone of that QR code. And what it does is it takes a link to your donate page on your website. So that's another great way. If you had a wonderful event you were very excited about and you want to say how it went, like a little follow-up video, email it in your email a link to it to the participants that participated, add a slide to the end of the video to the donate page. So it's a way to get those donations after the fact and to remind people of what a good time they had or what an important mission it is. And oh yeah, I want to donate. There is a there's a lot of QR code generators out there, and we have a link to one of the more popular ones. Let's see. Oh, and especially with Gen Z, and this is where I just love the idea of influencers and nonprofits, because nonprofits inherently are about social good, are about leveling the playing field, are about offering services to folks who maybe are marginalized. And so you guys fit right in with that generation's priorities. And it's a big leap to feel like to just go to TikTok and to create all these videos and the time it's going to take and the resources, but you can consider it maybe another volunteer position, and an influencer gets perks in exchange. So yeah, this is the brightest star. And actually, I think other than cryptocurrency, this is the next route to look into, if you've already got your website going, your Google page going, your social media is strong, so yeah, start looking into crypto and influencers for Gen Z. Let's see if I have anything else. Oh, if you're an organization that you don't have I've been mentioning volunteers a lot. If you don't have a lot of volunteers, I've seen some effectiveness with being on panels with other organizations. So you show your expertise by being on a panel that is about a social justice issue, gender equity issue, environmental issue. See if you can organize other businesses or organizations that are similar to yours around those specific issues and create panels, because Gen Z, they love to share their opinions and they love to hear expertise, and those panels can be more of a back and forth. And if you can offer it in a cool space, all the more better. Breweries, stuff like that. That happens a lot in Missoula here. So yeah. I think before we go into our ending questions, how are we doing for time, Jill?
We're good. We have 20 minutes and a
Okay.
couple questions that have come into the chat, but we have plenty of time for them.
Okay. Any questions about Gen Z right now?
We do have a couple. Yeah.
Okay.
Specifically about TikTok, we have kind of a two-part question that came in.
Okay.
The first was someone wrote in and said that they feel like all the TikToks they've seen are usually between 5 to 10 seconds long. And they're wondering if you've seen TikTokers have success with longer form content. So that's kind of the first section. I'll let you answer that before we share the follow-up question.
Yeah, so the majority maybe is a quick dance with some music behind it. And then there's others that they're more of the commentary and the reviews kind of TikToks, or it can even be just someone ranting in their car, which of course, your board does not want to give permission for someone to rant about an issue. But what you can do is talk about why you have your services. And I'm trying to think of who. I've seen this a lot with culinary and chefs. So people love to show their food, right? And people are starting to show how they cook something on TikTok. And then someone will pick that video up and do a duet with it and just do a funny commentary on it, or, that's a weird way to do that, or that's not how I would do my ramen, or something like that. So if you can find, for the longer form, see, this is challenging because it has to be related to the nonprofit and your mission. So how to search for those on TikTok is probably the best start. And you would do, like, if I was the YMCA, I would do hashtag swim lessons or hashtag pool time or something like that. And you just start searching on hashtags that might relate to your mission. Then TikTok will start feeding you videos that relate. Find a long form video that you like, that is appropriate, and then just comment on it. I did my happy medicine. There's a link in the end notes there about my account there. That's what I've been finding, is just funny videos that I like. And then my video is just my face reacting to it. So long form is more how to and why, and then commenting on it. I think, yeah, like the person said, most of them are shorter, but with this 10-minute increase, I kind of wonder if we're not going to start seeing more long form. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. You kind of actually answered the second half of the question already.
Oh, okay.
Because she was brainstorming some potential content that they could have as a nonprofit. And wondering if it would look like they were trying too hard if they dove into the choreographed dance side of TikTok, or if she should do more things like, it's a nonprofit specifically that works with families and parents. So she said, we could do parenting tips, we could do videos about our services, we could do informational videos, Or like, would it be fun, or would it feel too off brand to do kind of like the silly choreographed dances? Or would that be kind of a way to personalize the staff at the team?
I want to say yes and no. Um, as long as it's not always dances, or excuse me, not always serious stuff or how to or informational. Um, Definitely pepper in some of those fun moments. I think we saw during the pandemic, families were stuck together, right? And so they started doing, that's a lot, actually why those dances got so popular is they started doing it as a family. Wouldn't that be fun with families and their kids having a little dance? And you guys posted on your TikTok. Um, I think the trick here is to go for the more lighthearted stuff that isn't blue. And then once in a while, that's what you're trying to do, is attract followers by doing that. And then once in a while, stick in, something really meaningful that you guys are up to and personal. I hope that answers it a little bit.
I think it does. I think that's great advice. And then I have one question that doesn't apply specifically to Gen Z, but kind of all of them. So I'm happy to wait on that if you want to wait to dive into the general questions, or we can hit it.
Let's go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and do it.
Okay, so the question that I got a direct message to me was specifically about determining your target market. So this nonprofit has a certain age group that are kind of their donors and board members, a certain age group that are their volunteers and advocates, and a certain age group that are their clientele. And so when deciding how to prioritize their time and really resources, staff capacity, funding, if we're going to pay for social ads, et cetera, the question was like, basically, how do we choose where to start? What would your recommendation be?
It sounds like you have multiple generations, but they each might be involved in different avenues or different aspects of your organization. And if I'm understanding it right, how to prioritize who you reach first, and yeah, how to price who and how you do that. So I was thinking kind of a similar question here on the way into my office today. It would be like, if you have a lot of these tools already set up, where would you start first?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I would start, if you have an existing asset, whether that is the group of people that is really strong in your organization, the strongest out of those groups, or your existing asset is you have a really strong website, do what you can to augment that. For that really strong group, you might create memberships. For the website, you might start doing online booking. So what we're trying to do is strengthen the assets we already have, whether it be a relationship or an actual digital tool. And then down the road, I just think really segmenting those ages in your CRM and delivering content only that they want. So a big mistake has been just to scattershot your content to everyone. And it's so easy just to take that whole email list and write an email and press send. I totally get it. But what that has created is people who they no longer read emails because they know it doesn't relate to them. So the big switch has been to just get as specific as possible so that that person relates directly to that email, and then make it short and sweet. Yeah, I hope that answers a little bit.
I think it does.
Yeah, okay.
Does anyone else, those are all of the questions that I got in the chat box. Does anyone else have questions? You're welcome to jump in on video, or you can chat them to the whole group, or if you want to remain anonymous, you can chat them to me directly and I'm happy to relay them on your behalf. 1 minute to think. I'm gonna change my view really quick.
And if people want to ask questions later, my email, of course, is on the document. I think I'll end with a fun little video.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So this is one of my favorite YouTubes that kind of takes a tongue-in-cheek look at Gen Z. I'll share my screen here.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Carl. So it seems like every other week, the kids of Generation Z seem to come out with new slang terms that, quite frankly, confuse the rest of us older generations. So the goal today is to learn how to speak some of that Gen Z lingo. And joining me today on how to translate some phrases is our favorite spokesperson for the Gen Z kids, my cousin Brock. Say hello, Brock. Brock, say hello.
Stop.
All right, let's get started.
You guys have the Wi-Fi password?
All right, Brock, we're going to start with some simple ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, how are you?
Saw.
Friends,
Fam.
family.
Fam jam.
It was a fun event.
The fest was lit.
Okay,
Oh,
I'm about to leave.
I'm finna dip set.
Those are some neat shoes.
Them kicks are dripping.
I would be glad to help.
Bet.
My favorite team lost.
Dudes took an L.
My favorite team lost very bad.
Dudes got clapped.
He seems upset.
He little mad.
He seems very upset.
He big mad.
I like this music.
That's a bop.
I'm not lying.
No cap.
I'm sorry that happened to you.
Oof.
That's an interesting statement.
Weird flex, but okay.
I'm not a fan of these appetizers.
These apps are booty.
I completely agree with that statement.
Facts.
I agree.
Yeet yeet.
Excuse me.
Yeet.
Wow, that's exciting news.
Yeet.
Congratulations on your baby boy.
Yeet.
What does yeet even mean? Yeet is yeet. That doesn't help. It's like when fam comes slipping in with their dripping swag, jamming to some sick bop. And no cap, you know these facts are about to be litty fresh to death. You're like, oh. I'm not big mad at that baby response.
Yeet.
I don't get it. Weird flex, but okay.
So yeah, I just love ending with that. Oh,
It's
I
starting
think it's
again.
going. Let me get off of that there. Whew. There's our cute Sam Elliott. All right. You know, if I were to say one of the most challenging things to end this is how to get personal, how much information to share, how vulnerable to be, especially when our board is full of professionals, probably throughout our community. There's reputations to protect. I think the secret weapon there, or the secret sauce, is education. And even maybe inviting whatever generation that you are wanting to point to, inviting them to your board meetings and saying what it's like for them. And just getting them comfortable bit by bit and helping to realize like, oh yeah, I'm not familiar with this, but this person does it in a really good way. And you can actually use your clients, your volunteers as just information for you guys, lean on them to learn what they're into and what they like. And because the landscape is changing so fast, there's no hard and fast rules, really. And that can be a wonderful flexibility tool, but it can also kind of be a little scary. So lean on those generations that are already involved with you, or even just ask them to ask their families and their kids. Ask your families, ask your kids. You're more likely to get the more updated information if you just ask these folks than if you Google it, honestly. Yeah. So I hope this was a big help today. It was a lot of information, I know. We recorded it. Hopefully we got some good links for you to go to. Jill, thank you so much for managing that chat. Those questions really got me thinking. Yeah, and just thank you for the opportunity today. And my dog thanks you if you've been hearing him in the background.
can hear the little puppy. Shelby, thank you for your time. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in today. We will be sending out a survey to get some feedback from all of you about what else you'd like to learn about. And in the email I send out, I will include this link again. Or the PDF again. I will include all the links. I'll include Shelby's contact information and this recording, so you can refer back to all of the above if you have any questions. And again, if you have questions later, please feel free to reach out to Shelby, or if you have questions about the program or suggestions for Nonprofit Cafe, please anytime feel free to reach out to me. But we are so grateful for everyone joining us this morning, and I hope you all have a lovely, lovely weekend.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.